Everybody, welcome. I'm Josh and this is Earl.
Howdy, folks.
And we are going to be doing a special 4-week video series called What Happened to Fantastic Four? Fantastic Four, what happened? We're going to be talking about the comics and the previous 3 movies, the first 2 that Fox did and the one that they just released last year, Fantactic. We're going to be talking about everything that happened, the rise and the fall of the Fantastic Four. So, Earl, why don't you give us a bit of background of the
Okay,
comics?
back in about 1961, Jack Kirby and Stan Lee came out with Fantastic Four #1, and what differentiated it from all the other comics was it was more of a family group setting. You had 3 guys and 1 girl. Now they actually didn't get married until a little bit later on in the series, but you could tell Reed and Sue were boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah.
And so, but it still had a family kind of dynamic. You had Sue and Johnny were brother and sister, and they had real world problems. Most superheroes didn't. A lot of their problems were big thing was superheroes. We have to fight supervillains, and oh, my suit's dirty and stuff like that. No, these guys actually had to worry about infighting. They had to worry about how they were going to get money and different things like that. Everybody always assumes Clark Kent. He's a reporter, so he's got money and everything
really.
like that. Well, Bruce Wayne's self-explanatory.
Yeah.
But they had real world problems, and it was one of the other books that you started seeing other characters cross over into.
Yeah, definitely.
You saw Hulk fight the Thing in issue number 12.
You saw Spider-Man try to join the Fantastic Four.
Right, in his #1. But then when he realized that they don't get paid,
Yeah. So he just bolted.
He just left. He's like, well, I need a job.
Yeah.
You also had characters like Black Bolt, Black Panther, Galactus, and Annihilus all come from that same series. And the popularity was there forever because it was the one that spawned all the other books.
Oh yes, it was very popular.
It was the first Marvel superhero title because before Marvel was called Timely, and then after about 15, 20 years it changed the name to Atlas, and then in the early 60s it became Marvel when the superhero reemergence came out for the Silver Age. And you started seeing more and more superheroes pop up with Fantastic Four. I mean, they fought guys like the Mole Man,
Doom.
but they had Dr. Doom, he had no special powers. He was just a guy in some armor who at one time was Reed's best friend.
Yeah.
And kind of turned on him because of an accident that was nowhere near Reed's fault. Doom had miscalculated some stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just that family dynamic. And it lasted for quite a while. I mean, the series started in 1961 and continued to flourish throughout around the early 80s. Then, at that time, then things started changing. You started having the way society started becoming. There was more divorce. There was more children, kind of fending for themselves and stuff like that. It all became where the family unit was not quite as cohesive as it once was, and it started making the Fantastic Four look kind of corny.
Yeah.
Because they were all about family and everything. So
Which isn't a bad thing.
it isn't a bad thing at all. But it's just the current environment of society just doesn't take to it like it used to.
Yeah.
So I think that's why the comics, since probably late 80s, only had one really big significant push. And there was like a 3-issue arc where the Fantastic Four went missing, so they had to replace them. And they replaced them with Spider-Man, Wolverine, Hulk when he was gray, and Ghost Rider.
So for you who are in the Fantastic Four universe, their lineup of villains or heroes, who's your favorite?
As far as villains-wise, Dr. Doom.
Yeah.
He just doesn't care.
He's there to rule the world or make it a better place.
Well, he's a real interesting character. He wants the best for his people in Latveria, but it's just his means and ways he goes about doing it. He's pretty ruthless. You disagree with him, you're pretty much dead.
Yeah. For me, it'd probably have to be the Thing. one of the more relatable characters.
Mhm.
He's damaged for a lot of the veterans and soldiers out there. They can relate to him quite a bit. Just like some of the younger teens could relate to Johnny Storm as well.
Yep.
What are some of your favorite Fantastic Four story arcs?
The one in Fantastic Four number 48 and 49 when Silver Surfer first comes to Earth.
Yeah.
And he's the herald for Galactus. He comes to Earth looking for a place for Galactus to basically feed on. And he gets to Earth and he's cold. I mean, he's like emotionless and everything. But there's something still inside of him from when he was just, human. And, Sue kind of turns him back to having those feelings. And he basically turns on Galactus and does what's right.
Yeah, I like that series too. It was the first time that I think we saw the Watcher, wasn't it?
Yes. Watcher, who is never supposed to interfere in the affairs of whatever race he's watching over, so to speak, or viewing, actually went down to Earth and warned them that Galactus was coming.
The only Watcher who ever interferes.
Yep, Watu.
Yeah. So, what are some points of the Fantastic Four that could basically be brought back if Marvel wanted to redo the comic into the modern age?
If they wanted to do it modern now, I would say you would have to pretty much do away with the children. Start over fresh.
Fresh?
Start over fresh with the characters. A lot of things in their origin didn't make sense in the comics.
How so?
Well, they were. You had a scientist, a teenage girl, her teenage brother, and Ben Grimm. And Ben could fly. He flew planes in the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
How did they sneak onto this highly, secure, base, basically NASA, get in a rocket ship, launch it, because there's also mission control.
Mm-hmm.
Ben flew planes. This is totally different. You don't fly a rocket. The rocket just goes into orbit, and then you guide the plane once it gets into space. Totally different dynamics.
It had to be at least unsanctioned.
Oh yeah, no, they went and did it on their own. And why are you taking a teenage girl and her brother with you? They offer no help. Then they get into space, and maybe back in the 60s they didn't quite understand how things worked, but there's the radiation, the cosmic radiation.
Mm-hmm.
You're only going to have two forms of radiation out in space. You're going to have the ultraviolet rays from the sun, and you're pretty much going to have gamma radiation from when a star goes nova.
So they should have turned into Hulks.
They should have died. They should have all died, because those rays do not mutate you. They don't turn you into superheroes. They just kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think with a lot of things, when they transferred it over to another medium, other than animated, they had to change it up for a lot of those reasons.
Yeah.
But I mean, back in the 60s, you could do that.
It was all fantastical.
Sure. I mean, and it was there. I mean, if you're a 6, 7, 8-year-old reading this, it's blowing your mind.
Yeah, you're not going to care about all the science
Right.
crap.
Because the only thing that's been in space so far has just been satellites. No, I don't think at that time any type of being had gone up there yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it just captured the minds of a lot of kids.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about the fall of the Fantastic Four in comic books.
Yes.
What happened? These guys, the Fantastic Four is Marvel's first family. They were the epitome of the superhero group.
Right.
What happened?
The times changed. Times got a lot darker. Because Spider-Man used to be light, happy-go-lucky.
Quippy all the time.
Yeah, all the time. Then people started liking the villains. Venom comes in. People want to see Venom. They don't want to see somebody like Electro anymore. So with Fantastic Four, their group of villains didn't lend very well to that particular group of people any longer. Not only that, after they go out and fight, the villains, when they go home, they have kids and everything there. And that, at that time, is probably more realistic than anything they've ever done in there. But fans didn't like it. They don't want to see realism.
They don't want to see Fantastic Four babies.
No. I mean, you don't want entire story arcs revolving around these children either. Fans want to see fights. They want to see battles. They want to see good stories. They want to see them fight Doctor Doom, but not because of a child.
Mm-hmm.
They've done some decent stuff over the years. They've had some really good story arcs, but overall, it seems like the Fantastic Four have just become stale.
Yeah, and I do remember some comic issues where Reed would go on for quite a few panels with this long balloon and all that science garble. So I was like,
Sure.
So I can see that, but I really liked the Fantastic Four. Not for the past few years, but because they've really changed for me. I really liked when they first started out.
Right. I think there's going to be a big shift in the comics. I mean, obviously right now there's not much being done with them as a group being called Fantastic Four because Marvel's just decided not to do anything for whatever reason they choose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to be, as far as like the rights for the movie, I think this movie did so poorly that Fox may just turn around and give the rights back.
Yeah, and we'll definitely talk about these 3 movies in later videos.
But the comics portion of it is, right now they're doing nothing with it.
The Fantastic Four are more or less dead franchise-wise in the comics.
Right. The certain characters are popping up here, like Reed right now. The Reed Richards that exists in the current Marvel Universe is the Reed Richards from the Ultimate Universe. And he's evil.
Mm-hmm. Where's Reed from 616?
Yes. Where's he at? If I'm not mistaken, at the end of Secret Wars, he just kind of went away.
We want Reed!
And Sue's still around, and Ben and Johnny are out flying around with some of the different teams.
That's nice.
So, but as far as seeing, Fantastic Four comic, yeah, it's not going to happen.
Not going to happen anytime soon.
Not anytime soon. Not this year, as far as I understand.
Oh, that sucks. But that's life.
I think that if they did it where the younger readers might understand it better if they were done in a style for today, if it was modernized and updated. The older fans would hate it.
Well, there's always going to be that clash.
Right. And the older fans would hate it because they would probably have them on their phones, talking in like text speak and, LOL and all that. And you would probably see them talking about, current trends, fads, things like, the Kardashians. Johnny would probably listen to a lot of hip-hop music. Reed would probably still listen to classical. Ben would probably listen to, like, rock. Sue would probably listen to pop. So it wouldn't be like, we all listen to this one type of music. They would show how a group of 4 people who care for each other and trust each other, but are so diametrically different from each other.
I can see that as a storyline. In the beginning, the Fantastic Four are just, they're there, but they're separated. They're not really engaging it with each other, and something has to happen for them to come back together as an actual family.
To bring them together, yeah.
I can definitely see that. I can get behind that.
And I think you wouldn't be able to do the whole cosmic rays transform them anymore.
Maybe not.
They know about science now.
Yeah. And as for cell phones or technology and holograms and whatnot, didn't Reed back in the day actually use some of that stuff, more or less?
Oh, yeah. He invented all kinds of stuff. That was another thing the fans started not liking. Every time they got stuck in a situation, Reed would invent a new contraption to get them out of a problem.
The ultimate nullifier.
Exactly.
Which is still kind of interesting.
Yeah. One of the better stories they did was in one of the, I think it was the King Size Giant Special or Annual, where Sue was pregnant, and they had to bring her to the negative zone. The only person who could help her actually give birth to Franklin and survive was a nihilist.
What?
In the negative zone, yeah.
That's weird.
So they went to the negative zone. That's when they first ran into a nihilist.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So that is the rise and fall of Fantastic Four in the comic books. So tune in next week where we will talk about the Fantastic Four that Fox did, the first one that they did. See how it went, what went wrong, and what they kind of got right. So, Earl, we'll see you next week.
All right, I'll be here.
All right, until next time, later. Bye.